All right, two fairly similar setups. It felt like the match was won fairly quickly. There was a bit of a Guardian headshot, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so Hun reloaded immediately, first thing, drop drones, headshot the Guardian. That Guardian went down so fast, I didn't see a single clear rep cycle on it. It probably didn't have full transversal at that point. It may have been busy pre-locking frigates. They thought like the other dummies would go for the frigates, as many of these teams have done in the past, and just dropped and like sealed the match in the first 30 seconds.
Yep, he might have also been pure resistance fit and didn't just expect to be volleyed so fast. The target calling, I think, was the main difference there. I mean, the other team went for an Ishker for some reason as a first target.
And by the time they did switch to the Guardian that was still alive, it was able to tank. So not losing their Guardian the whole match meant that it was just a systematic destruction of the enemy team. Went pretty well for him.
Yep, you gotta go.
At least they didn't bring Tinkers.
Yeah, you gotta go for the Logi trade, and you gotta win the Logi trade first.
And it's interesting because in the studio they were a little bit they were doubting a little bit whether or not those were Tinker setups when they saw them. But you guys identified that they were not Tinker setups by their frigates.
Yes.
How do you see that?
Well, they were like Tristans and other frigates that you don't really identify as great armor tankers. I mean, you want to keep your frigates alive just in case that you run up against another tinker when it comes down to who kills more frigates, or even one frigate, as we saw previously yesterday.
Unreloaded side is a bit closer to viable because they do have. They have a lot more tanky ships. The Tyrannus isn't. It's got the Tyrannus has more HP in structure than it has in armor. So they're definitely not going to be Tinkers, and also because they have their Guardians. The Guardian self-rep isn't nearly as good. If you wanted to go with a Tinker, you go a little cheaper in the ships, or you go less ships and you bring a T3 usually.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, good FCing by Unreloaded.
Yes.
Yep.
I think their tournament experience proved to be viable there, and just an interesting tidbit to throw in on the last match as well. On evebet.com, the guy who lost 42 billion previously bet 32 billion or 22 billion on End of Life.
So he's almost down 100 billion now.
Yes.
Probably.
Well, like 50, but yes.
Wasn't it like 50 the first one?
30 and 20.
42.
42 plus.
Yeah,
I thought
28 or something like that. Anyway, who cares?
Something
He's down a lot of money.
It's almost $1 trillion.
Enough that I'm not willing to
Yes.
throw them away on bad bets on EVET.
Enough that he could have fielded a cheaper tournament team for that money.
Maybe he should have sponsored them instead.
Yeah, maybe that's a safer bet. Those are odd bets. You're betting against Unreload. Is it because the odds are just so obscene?
It's probably because of the odds. You wanna, you're down the hole a little bit, and you pray for a Hail Mary.
But wait a minute, Unreloaded are in the losers bracket. I would not be betting against Unreloaded in the losers bracket.
No.
I'd be betting against Unreloaded in the winners bracket if they're just running their safe setups and can afford one loss. Betting against Unreloaded in the losers bracket, that's how you lose 70-something billion.
Here's the weird thing, though. Leaving Dominic's is open and saying that we think that we can out-execute a Dominic setup over Unreloaded, who has always been pretty good at executing tournament teams.
Yeah.
So.
Well FC team, absolutely. So we do have the graphics up for Shadow Cartel versus MIF. Shadow Cartel versus MIF. MIF, of course, is not the Ministry of Inappropriate Footwork. Let's see. So Shadow Cartel beat Noir, lost to Darkside, defeated Euron Alliance. MIF defeated Angeli Mortis, lost to Darkness of Despair, and defeated Solar Fleet.
Yep.
As far as victories are concerned, I think that MIF probably had 2 victories on slightly harder opponents.
Yeah. Shadow Cartel really hasn't come up against anyone who could.
Right, and we expect them to do well, and I don't know why, but we just generally expect them to be like a halfway decent tournament team, but they did lose the dark side, so that's honest.
All right, well, let's get our predictions then and see how it goes.
I think MIF are one of our strongest Russian teams left in the tournament. I'm going to go with MIF.
All right.
Forgetting dark side, buddy. I'm going to go with Shadow Cartel.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Shadow Cartel as well.
I think I might jump on the Russian bandwagon here and go with MIF.